Alright, so here we are in 2023. Yes, I'm still alive. For those of you who've noticed I didn't post a video lately, sorry about that. That kind of happened. Was very busy. Other than that, I'm not going to apologize any further. I'm going to get into the video that I'm doing, which in this case is about elliptical curve for SQL Server. In this case, I'm going to use a Windows 2019 with a SQL Server 2022 build. It could be an earlier version, should work fine on both 2016, 2017, 2019 versions of SQL, as well as Windows 16, 19, and Windows 2022 Server. I list those ones, but I will tell you that probably the later builds of the 2016, not so sure about the earlier builds. Anyway, we are using 2019 server for this, so let's go ahead and just show you a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to go ahead and create this using a self-signed certificate on PowerShell. So forgive me, it's probably something we've covered a dozen times already. But before we do that, I also want to show you what versions of elliptical curve in terms of support you get within Windows, because there are not that many supported options. So in 2019, and I'm not too sure about earlier versions, but certainly in 2019 and Server 2022, you have the option to go ahead and get the TLS ECC curve, which is, I would have just gone with the ECC. I don't know why they stuck curve on the end. I guess it was so that elliptical curve was slightly clearer to people who didn't know that ECC was elliptical curve, but anyway, that makes as much sense as the rest of the Microsoft documentation did. So here we have the output, and we've got 3 supported versions. So that's just something to be aware of. And the reason I do this is because later when we're creating the self-signed certificate, it makes a bit more sense. So our first 2 lines are to get the server name and the DNS, which in this case is just for our lab bit. They're passed into these strings that are nicely labeled in our self-signed certificate. We're going to put the certificate into the local machine store. We're going to give it a friendly name of SQL Server. We're going to give it a no longer than 24 months, so basically 2 years expiry. And then we're going to use a key algorithm. And for those of you who are sharp-eyed, you'll see that the key algorithm is one of the 3 options that we had. Now, there is another option. We can say we don't trust 256, you know? Maybe it's not good enough. Let's go with 384. For no better reason than we can, for one. So I'm going to go ahead and create that certificate. You can see that's now there. We could go and import that into SQL using PowerShell, but I'm feeling particularly lazy, and I know that the script is somewhere in the bottom of my DevOps repository, and I just really can't be bothered to go find it right now. So I'm going to just go ahead and manually switch this over to using the certificate. And there's another reason I want to do this, and that's because I don't have scripted out PowerShell for one of the options that I want to show you a little later. So for the moment, we'll just go ahead, select the certificate, hit apply. It's going to tell us I cannot change anything till you do a restart, so we restart the instance. Fortunately, this is not production and the server is not doing anything, so no dead users complaining about loss of connection. So with that done, we should now be in a state whereby the SQL Server is only accepting enforced, so TLS only connections, and we should also have the certificate running off that elliptical curve that we just previously created. So the thumbprint is for that elliptic curve. We know that, we selected it in the drop down. So the only thing really remains is to test that the connections are enforced. Now, Management Studio is probably running fine, but it seems to run really slow on this VM, so maybe it's the VM. I didn't have a chance to test whether or not it's the VM or the Management Studio, but it does load kind of slow. So what we're going to do is quickly test with a PowerShell function, well, PowerShell script I should say, to confirm whether or not the connections are running in a fully encrypted state. And by the way, I've used this before on things like AliCloud. That was hilarious because although they do have certificates in AliCloud, they don't necessarily enforce it. So some of the connections where they're developers hadn't put in the explicitly enforced connection, we're still running unencrypted. As a tip for you guys out there, make sure that you have enforced on your SQL servers. And if you don't or can't specify the option because it's a past service, complain to your provider and run the SQL statements to check. In the meantime, Management Studio is finally loaded. We can see that we've got a connection. All is good. Now let me show you some of that slightly weirder behavior that I was talking about. So if we do the strict enforcement, where we are using now a different version, so instead of using version 7, we are going to enable this, and it says, okay, minimum version 8. This is where it gets a little bit funny. Again, we've got to do a restart. But the observed behavior is now with version 19 of Management Studio, which is the current one, I might add. You know, there's no later one available, at least not yet. We're unable to log in, or at least I was not able to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what I see. We do have Trust Service Certificate. We do have Ensure Encrypted Connection, same as we had previously. We hit connect, boom. Not sure if this is a bug or expected behavior. I did try to find the explanation in the documentation. I haven't been able to find it yet. Something which I'm still complaining quite often to. Sorry, Microsoft, I love you, but you really do need to work on your documentation. It is very unorganized. Anyway, with that said, we'll switch it off. We'll restart the instance just to prove that that is the only thing that's causing the issue. And well, you know, that's what it is. I'll post the link in the description below in order for you to be able to do your self-signed certificates yourselves with Elliptical Curve. Have some fun, and if anyone knows what that error is, please let me know. Till then.